Hej och välkomna tillbaka. Vi fortsätter i programmet och nu ska vi lyssna på, vi lämnar gaming och går över till healthcare. Så vi ska lyssna på Dignitana och som presenteras av Bill Cronin. Welcome Bill.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to present tonight. Thanks very much for all those that have joined us, and also thank you again to the Oxys Verana folks. It's always a pleasure to speak with investors to discuss what we do. We feel and believe very strongly in our product and our company mission, so it is our indeed pleasure to speak with you tonight. On behalf of all of our employees and board members in Sweden and the US, again, I'd like to say thank you. One point I'd like to make before I get into the presentation tonight is that all of the photos, every photo you'll see throughout this presentation, and this is a new one we put together just for this evening, are all actual Dignitana patients, all of whom have used our product and really benefited from it. So I just wanted to make that note before we get started. Dignitana AB is traded on the First North Exchange and has been since 2011. We trade under the ticker symbol DIGN. Our headquarters are in Lund, with a significant amount of our operations actually done in Dallas, Texas. Our market cap is just about 350 million SEK, and our product is the DigniCap Scalp Cooling System, which I'll tell you more about as we go through the presentation. Our scalp cooling system is employed by patients undergoing certain chemotherapy regimens to reduce the hair loss typically associated with many of those. For most patients undergoing chemo regimens, the patient on the left is what most people would believe them to look like. The vast majority of chemo regimens do cause either complete or almost total hair loss. The patient on the right, however, utilized scalp cooling through 6 rounds of chemo and actually managed to keep virtually all of their hair. This patient on the right actually turns out to be my wife. We used scalp cooling all the way back in 2012, prior to any of the products being cleared by the FDA. And after that experience, because it was very difficult, very painful, I really wanted to find a way to make this easier and more available to more patients. And that's how I ended up working with the Dignitana folks. For most patients, hair loss is the most difficult side effect to deal with. We did a survey all the way back in 2015, and from 400 female cancer patients, they listed hair loss as the single most distressing side effect. This is really an amazing statistic, given some of the other side effects of chemotherapy, notably potential damage to your heart and other internal organs. Further, 8 to 10% of female patients will forego chemotherapy altogether for fear of hair loss. So we were looking at a market that was dramatically in need of a solution. Scalp cooling improves quality of life and well-being for patients. We also did a survey all the way back in 2015 where 96% of women surveyed said they would be interested in scalp cooling if needing chemotherapy. And what it does is enable a patient to maintain a level of privacy, identity, and control during a period where they have lost virtually almost all of those things. Scalp cooling improves quality of life and well-being for patients. We also did. How does scalp cooling work? It does so by reducing scalp temperature, by inducing 2 physiological conditions. We do that by inducing 2 physiological conditions. By hypothermically reducing a patient's scalp temperature while they get chemotherapy, it induces vasoconstriction. It constricts the blood vessels in the scalpel area and impedes the flow of chemo agents to the hair follicle. Further, metabolic processes are reduced, so those chemo agents that do reach the hair follicle are then not absorbed. The science behind it is really very simple. Our legacy product, the C3 device, was cleared by the FDA in late 2015. And during the clinical trial, we showed that just over 66% of patients were able to prevent hair loss by maintaining a reduced scalp temperature using the DigniCap scalp cooling system. Since then, there has been a significant amount of additional research done to prove both safety and efficacy. And a quick note, the photo here is of a gentleman that used our scalp cooling system. The vast majority of patients and how we lay out where our target market is are female. However, male usage is increasing for the product. The DigniCap Delta is the fourth in the line of DigniCap products that has been cleared as of June of 2019. This new device was a dramatic step forward for the company in that it addressed some of the really important components that we needed to solve for, especially here in the United States. We needed a single patient unit, and we wanted better patient outcomes. We're always striving to ensure patients keep as much hair as they possibly can. And the new flexible cooling wrap that fits directly to the patient's scalp really does that for us. Further, this device enables nurses to spend dramatically less time with this device. And in fact, reduces nursing time per patient by almost 80% versus our legacy product. The portable ergonomic design for the unit also fits in very well with a facility's workflow, as it enables the facility to move the patient out of the infusion chair once their time is complete. Now also the product enables Dignitana to generate a new stream of revenue from the sale of disposables. This product has exceeded all of our expectations, which were very high to begin with. This particular patient, I like to spend a minute here, Marissa, actually used the product through 16 rounds of chemotherapy, including 4 rounds of adriamycin. Adriamycin is an anthracycline regimen, which has always proven to be the most difficult for scalp cooling treatments. If you'll notice here, from her first to her last, she appears to have lost virtually 0 hair. These are the type outcomes that we are seeing on a much more regular basis and are what really is driving the increased usage and adoption of our product, both domestically and overseas. These are the type outcomes that get us really excited. This is what we want to see, and we'll look forward to actually publishing data in the future to show just how effective we can be, not just with taxane regimens, but also with regimens like Marissa's. There is a very large total addressable market for scalp cooling, both in the US as well as overseas. We look at a demographic that includes female patients ages 35 to 65 years old that will be receiving chemotherapy for either breast, ovarian, and uterine. Again, as I noted before, and you'll see several other photos of male patients, male usage continues to accelerate. However, we just really don't factor that even in to our overall revenue stream. As more and more men do adopt scalp cooling, we probably will add that in. But regardless, there is a very significant global addressable market here. So again, for that demographic, 35 to 65-year-old female patients with one of those 3 malignancies, here in the US, we believe the total addressable market to equal $600 million, and globally an additional $1.3 billion US dollars. So that's a total of $2 billion US dollars that we believe is actually out there for us to adopt. The US is still our primary market for DigniCap. There are 2,500 cancer treatment facilities here in the United States with 5 or more infusion chairs. 650,000 patients receive chemotherapy annually that are applicable to our scalp cooling device. Of all of the 2,500 sites here in the United States, 30% of those are comprehensive medical centers. We have 13 sites that carry the very important NCI designation. The other 70% of treatment facilities are what are called community oncology providers. These are typically sites that are operating multiple infusion centers. That's where 70% of the infusions in America are done, and that is really our primary target market at this point. What this slide will show you is that we have made significant inroads with the largest of the multi-site operators. At present, these are facilities and groups that we've already contracted with to offer the DigniCap device at their sites. Presently, we've only installed units in 20% of those 385 locations. This is how this company is going to get past break even to significant profitability by expanding horizontally across facilities that we already have agreements in place with. We will arrive at the number of devices necessary to move this company into the very important cash flow positivity break-even point. We've been able to show very consistent revenue growth since early 2016. Again, the legacy C3 device was cleared in December of 2015. So we didn't place our first devices in the market until 2016. What you'll see from the chart is that our revenues did plateau in 2018. That was as a result of our decision to discontinue manufacture of the legacy C3 device all the way back to 2017. So through 18, we quite literally ran out of equipment to sell. And we put all of our investment and efforts into bringing the Delta device to market. So since that was introduced in Q3 of 2019, you'll see that not only has growth continued, but actually accelerated. These next series of slides will show you how our pay-per-treatment model works here in the United States. As we place a device, it accrues 3 streams of revenue here in the United States. The pay-per-treatment, patients will pay each time the device is used, a small lease for the facility, and also the sale of disposables to the patient. So as we install a device, even facilities with very low utilization rates can actually become profitable for us, but not till after almost a year and a half. Most of the sites we have fit the medium utilization profile, and you'll see from this that we actually cross over the point where we are covering the cost of manufacture and installation in just around 6 months. Since these devices carry a 5-year usable lifespan, that really can provide significant operating leverage in the years after it crosses the point of utilization. For very high utilization facilities, the payback per device can be as low as 4 months. So again, what this slide indicates is that each incremental device we put in, each tranche of new devices, 25 or 50, really has significant contribution to our overall financial performance. We recently released our Q1 growth numbers, which showed a 23% growth over Q1 of 2019. We also introduced a new revenue metric for the company, which we call our average daily treatment revenue. This number increased 38% year over year from Q1 2019. One thing I'd like to mention is that we have our annual general shareholders meeting at the end of this month, June 25th. We're proposing 4 new board members, each of whom provides a very unique set of skills and experiences that we believe will really help drive this company moving forward. 2 of the new board members, Yubo Mornovich and Christian Lindgren, are part of Greg Dingizia's ADMA organization. Klaus Araldson, who is the proposed chairman of the board, has significant medical device and operating experience, and we're very much looking forward to having Klaus. And finally, Rich DiOrio, who is the CEO of InfuSystem, who is the largest distributor of oncology pumps here in America, actually has a very significant background in durable medical equipment and oncology that we believe will bring significant value to the company. The remaining slate of directors, Ingrid Aderen-Hyman, Pontus Christensen, and myself, are all already existing members of that board. We have a very solid shareholder structure, with Greg Dingizian's ADMA organization owning just over 26% of the company, then a group of Avanza shareholders. Third in the shareholder table is myself and the partnership I control, C3 Device Partners, where we own just under 8%. Ewan Stormby, who is a very long-time shareholder and former board member of the company, is the 4th largest. And finally, IBKR represents Green Park and Golf, a very important medical device, medical investment partnership here in Dallas. Let's take a minute to discuss COVID-19. Thus far, the virus situation has brought minor impact to our financial performance, but meaningful impact to how we run our business. The health and safety of our three biggest stakeholders, which are our site partners, our patients, and our employees, is and will always be first and foremost to the organization. So we have to ensure that each of those three stakeholders is well protected through this process. We've done that by dramatically increasing our usage of online tools, which has made us even more efficient. Instead of hopping on airplanes like we used to, we're actually now doing a lot more trainings, retrainings, and even some installations with new online tools that we haven't utilized previously. Facility demand is still strong, although a number of installations have been postponed. We do have limited access to some of our hospital sites, most of our hospital sites for that matter, which has again increased our usage of online tools. We've instituted a series of internal changes to mitigate the financial strain during this time, including reducing our overall cost footprint. We received a loan from the U.S. stimulus package that has helped shore up our balance sheet, in addition to being able to tap our credit line from our existing equipment finance vendor. We've also used this time to dramatically fine-tune our internal processes, make our company more efficient. We've brought on Brian Nicholson as the head of our sales operation. He's done some significant restructuring to our sales operation to ensure it functions as efficiently as possible. What is the overall impact of the virus situation? It's hard to really determine. Again, for the moment, our daily revenue metrics continue strong. However, a number of our installations have been postponed, which will impact the date upon which this company becomes profitable. Depending upon how long those installations, pending and future installations, are postponed, will determine the duration of time until we're able to cross over that really important break-even point. We accomplished a significant number of major milestones for the company in 2019, the most important of which was the launch of the DigniCap Delta. We were able to obtain FDA clearance, TGA clearance in Australia, as well as CE marking in Europe. We shipped over 134 devices over the last 4 months of the year. That was almost as many devices as we shipped in the prior 3 years. This device works, patients want it, facilities are happy with it, and we continue to increase our backlog of installations. We were able to register a 25% increase in patient treatments year over year, which resulted in a 26% increase in total revenues year over year. We completed a TÜV audit successfully in October, as well as a very successful share issue, directed share issue, which was done in August of 2018. What are we going to do in 2020? We continue to maintain our focus on multi-site opportunities. We continue to install the DigniCap Delta while working to increase machine utilization rates. It's a very important objective of the company. Ensure our devices are used to the fullest extent possible. We want to build on the growing momentum and demand for scalp cooling, which we continue to see increase on a global basis. We want to collect and publish additional data to demonstrate the improved superiority of our device. One of the things about DigniCap is our product has always been the most clinically superior device on the marketplace. We now have a device with usability characteristics and enhanced performance. We want to be able to publish that information to clearly show a defined superior advantage versus competing scalp cooling systems on the marketplace. From a long-term perspective, we anticipate addressing 5% of the addressable market here in the United States within the next 3 years and a total of 10% within the next 5 years. The Dignitana investment story is really summed up by 4 primary points. We have a superior product that produces better clinical outcomes than either our legacy device or other products on the marketplace. We have a diverse revenue stream with consistent growth patterns. Our primary market here in the United States remains strong and shows increasing demand. So overall, we sum up the 3 characteristics of our company and the Delta device this way: easier use, better outcomes, equal happier patients. And that's a story that we and our site partners are very happily telling and enjoying at this point. Thank you very much. I appreciate, again, the opportunity very much to speak to you all today, and look forward to some questions at this point.
Thank you, Bill. Very interesting presentation. Thank you very much. Of course,
You're
we
welcome.
have a couple of questions, if I may. We can start with the postponement of a business agreement, which you maybe can elaborate a little bit more about. When do you think you will see a light regarding in the tunnel regarding your local market and that things starting to happen again?
Well, I think the best way to illustrate it is this: we were previously working on a very aggressive schedule of 30 devices a month, which we were hitting on a very consistent basis. I think that number tumbled all the way to 5 in April. Well, we're back to this month. We will install 16 devices. So the backlog is beginning to reduce. When we will be able to get back to that, full complement of 30 devices a month. Now, just a quick note, that 30 number is basically related to the installation and training component for each device. We don't just drop devices off and walk away. We actually spend significant time with the facility on the training and the integration into their workflow. That's a really important component for us. So, again, we dropped from 30 devices in March, 5 in April, and now we'll be up to 16 in June. So things are slowly starting to lift, but when we get back to, business as usual, 30 a month, that's yet to be determined.
Yeah, okay. We will get back to that. I mean, you have impressive targets, I think, to reach 10% of the market. What kind of obstacles do you see to reaching your target? What kind of is it? Is the healthcare system conservative, or is it what kind of difficulties do you see to grow?
The fastest thing that would help us get to that 10% number would be reimbursability, Max. And, we're not sure when that will come. Roughly 20% of our patients are at present receiving some level of reimbursement from their insurance provider. Otherwise, it just would be an incremental, sort of count up to this point. There are still fewer than 15% of the treatment facilities here in the United States are offering scalp cooling at this point. So, there's still roughly 80 to 85% of the sites that at present are not offering any scalp cooling systems. So there is a lot of untapped demand yet at this point. And, again, our governors on growth are basically, how many sites we can install and train per month and the limitations of our overall sales force. So, we're trying to grow at a conservative pace and ensure that our financial stability and structure is maintained while we take advantage of, again, the increasing demand and awareness of scalp cooling.
Okay. Do you have like a community for the patients using this, or is that maybe not relevant question? But I just wonder how it works. Do your patients help you to sell your system, or how do you organically grow your business?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and actually one that we've supplied a lot of effort to over the last year. We have a very expanding Facebook group of users, and we also have a number of ambassadors out there that we call dignitaries. Yeah. Patients that have used the product, that have done very well, that continue to wish to be involved and speak with patients and sites and facilities. So yes, using patients as ambassadors for the product is a really important initiative, one that we're actually adding increased effort to. Supporting patients is a really important component of our offering, in that a lot of patients will lose some hair while they use the product. Yeah. And being able to speak with these patients when that initial shedding begins is really important, just to assure them that this is normal, this is part of the process, and if they stick with scalp cooling, that again, the hair loss would be dramatically minimized and will grow back faster. To that end, we have a very deep patient support facility that actually reaches out and calls all of our patients prior to their first treatment and then maintains that contact through the duration of their treatment so that when they are done, they know we were there for them. Even if a patient hasn't kept all of their hair, we really want them to know that we've supported them, we're there for them, and we're there to help them with any issues that they might have.
Well, that's very interesting. And it's growing, right? Along with your business. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. US is obviously your prioritized market, but you didn't elaborate. You have a couple of other markets growing, right? Or
yeah, actually, we have quite a few markets where we've shipped Delta systems. For the moment, again, we are preferencing the U.S.
Yeah.
Quite simply because that is the market we know we will receive the fastest payback on our devices. We have a unique healthcare system which is marked by private payer insurance versus a public healthcare system. So our model of pay-per-treatment is much more readily accepted here in the U.S. So until such time as we cross the threshold of break even, it makes the most sense for us to allocate the majority of our devices to that particular market, the U.S., where we receive the highest and fastest payback. But at the same time, we did hire a gentleman, Cameron O'Mara, last year to initiate and maintain sales opportunities for us outside the U.S. And we have a number of very significant and exciting sales opportunities that we hope to announce in the near future in some of those other global marketplaces, Max.
Okay, so you work on different markets, but your main focus is still the US, right?
Yes, sir.
You launched another key ratio, ADTR.
Yes.
Yeah, and how high must that be when you are profitable, do you think?
I don't want to give the specific number, but we obviously have it targeted very clearly in mind here, Mats.
Yeah.
And, I have to be careful with what I say on
I understand.
But, we watch, as I spoke during the presentation, we very closely monitor all of our device utilization rates, each and every system out there. So ensuring our ADTR, average daily treatment revenue, is maximized from the base of installed units we have is a very important metric for this company to follow. So we hope to be able to communicate what that number is in the relatively near future, and that we're close to crossing that threshold, Matt.
Yeah, okay. So we will get used to that key ratio going forward. Excellent.
Well.
I also we talked a little bit about it in the beginning of this Q&A, but of course you need to postpone when you think you will be break even. Do you have like an idea when you can come back to the markets and say that we have some sort of forecast for this?
Yeah, the original forecast was scheduled for October of this year, and that was a function of installed devices. We have a very significant backlog of devices waiting to be installed. And, based on the systems that were already contracted and due to be shipped over the first 2 quarters of the year, our model indicated that we would pass that threshold by October. Now, again, we haven't had canceled devices during this COVID period, but we have a delay on the installation of them. Again, the backlog is sort of decreasing with 16 devices going out the door this month. But until the situation becomes clearer for our site partners, where they're able to, with complete conviction, say, okay, go ahead, let's bring that device that was scheduled for April in until August, we really won't know what the specific crossover date will be yet. I hope and anticipate it to be not too far thereafter, but again, the situation at this point still doesn't provide enough clarity to determine when all of those devices in our backlog queue will be able to be installed.
No, we have to wait and see, I guess. Do you have can you say something about the market right now in June? How it has developed, or is it more or less the same as in May, or because we read a lot about the US markets and that New York is opening up and things like that?
Yes, New York is opening up. And, at one point we had 7 facilities that had stopped accruing new patients. 5 of the 7 were actually in New York City. Okay. For obvious reasons. They were very concerned about this tidal wave of potential COVID patients just flat out taking up, all of their resources at the facility. Each of those 5 in New York City has now started admitting new patients for use of our device. That's very exciting. There's only 2 left in the US at this point that are still holding off new patient accruals. We do anticipate those 2 sites, lifting that restriction in the near term. But again, our daily revenue metrics, the ADTRs that we follow, have held up remarkably strong. The model, the portion of our model that forecasted incremental revenues associated with new unit installations as each month accrued has obviously slowed. So, but the usage, the average daily treatment revenues for those devices that have already been installed continue to produce as anticipated.
Impressive. Thank you very much, Bill, for a very interesting presentation.